These are the schematics for the actual build. They're pretty good so far is what I'm going for. The PCB or the PCI or whatever you want to call it. It's the STM32 Discovery F0 controller. Yeah, longer name. Sorry about that. That's what it's actually called. But yeah, if you want the real name and not complain later, that's what it is. The monitor is right there. It's a small touchpad, screen that's made by Ingcool. You have the schematics I built right here. It's not really actually super high end. It's not like some magical thing I created in the backyard of God in the universe, but it works. It's measured out. I used a ruler and a calculator and some basic mathematics, but that's really all I needed. Kind of winged it with the volume of the certain design elements, but that was about it. There wasn't much to be added here. No real frame components, no power switches, nothing too fancy. It wasn't required for this specific build, and as you can see, the calculations for it were very rudimentary, but it still worked. This is the input problem that I had. That was the first problem, and it was really annoying. And I also couldn't figure out why the sound wouldn't work. I also couldn't figure out why a lot of things weren't working. I also couldn't figure out why I couldn't get this thing to operate properly. And it dawned upon me that as much as I wanted to make this thing run standalone, there were a lot of appliances I needed to add, or peripherals, as I should say, peripherals that I wanted to add to this build that would make this make sense. So I switched the input back around to the right input, and that worked. But the micro SD card wasn't in the right slot, or in this case, it was always in the wrong slot because it was a terabyte micro SD, and I thought I could max up using the biggest version of max ups, but I got the OS to boot on a different SD card and it finally worked. Yeah, you have to use a smaller size. This thing worked, and there you go. That's the Raspberry Pi as a whole. On the right input, on the right card size, and this is me building the frame. Got the fans checked for the size of how big the little caddies needed to have them fit in. I even bolted them in there, and I even got the flapper for the casing open and shut. There's the schematics for that I'll show later. There are all these LEDs that I plugged in just to test the pins, but turns out that's more of a hardware thing. Got more of the encasing finished, more volume added, more placement for where to put the Pi, but also where to put the LEDs, how to fit the Pi in there, how to customize as time goes on. I was going to implement the flat from this angle, but that didn't make sense to me, and it was really dumb, and I just never did it. So that's where the F032, Discovery goes, and it's extra 5 volts that I used and programmed for the fan, and that's the monitor. I hooked everything up, and I got the two stacked together using these M-shaped plastic clips I created and glued them on, and that's the Pi working. I fixed it all up and installed sound. Yep, that's exactly what I did. And if you can hear that background music, it's a mashup from Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and Firefall's New Eden, and I'm running the sound system to be played on this RockBox PC build. A few LEDs worked, but the rest just kind of crapped out, which is kind of funny. I got the speaker to lock in place after basically just gluing a plastic clip on there as well as I did with the other LEDs, and everything works except for one fan. That's it. You just have to plug in, charge the sound.